Springer, this year's chair for the AIA New Jersey Small Firm Exchange, also known as SFX, along with Ruchi Dar, our New Jersey state rep for the National Small Firm Exchange. The AIA New Jersey Small Firm Exchange serves as a vital resource and advocate for small architecture firms throughout New Jersey. SFX aims to strengthen the role of small firms within the profession by addressing their unique challenges and opportunities. If you'd like to join our committee to help plan for future events, we also have an open co-chair position if interested. Please contact Christina Goldstein, our meetings and events manager. Her contact information will be in the chat. We also have a Slack channel open to all New Jersey AIA small firm practitioners for sharing knowledge and resources. Information on how to join the Slack channel will also be in the chat. Today's speaker needs no introduction, but we'll give it a shot anyways. William J. Martin, AIA, is an architect and community planner specializing in high-performance resilient design. Founder of WJM Architect, he's designed New Jersey's first LEED Platinum certified home and won the AIA NJCOTE Top 10 Merit Award. A longtime advocate for architects, he co-chairs the AIA New Jersey Public Awareness Committee and serves as a trustee for the AIA Architects League of Northern New Jersey. Recognized as a social media influencer by AIA National, he has been featured on CNBC, Fox News, MSNBC, NPR, and The Today Show. Bill is also a licensed planner and building inspector, hats for which he's here to talk about tonight. Without further ado, here's Bill.
Okay, welcome everyone. Now I am going to share my screen. Let's see if I can do this properly. All right, now hopefully you can see that. And let's start. Okay. I'm going to go, this is the slide deck I'm going to use today. This is Unlocking New Opportunities, Professional Planner and Building Inspector Licensing for New Jersey Architects. You know who I am. I was introduced very nicely by Sloan. And we have a new logo for our continuing AIA education, which I had to update the slide deck for. So moving on to the next slide. All right, now everyone can see this, right? We're good? Okay. All right, this is the, the boilerplate for all the AICES classes. So I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to move through these slides. This is the course description. I am going to read some of this. What are we trying to learn here? This session expands the idea of architectural practice by aligning with other allied professions. In particular, architects in professional practice, we are multifaceted professionals. We have a diverse range of skills, and those skills can be applied to the other two professions the other two licensed professions that I'm talking about today, which is professional planning and being licensed as a building inspector. Architects in private practice need to be adaptable and possess diverse skill sets. And that's what this is really talking about. These expanded professional skill sets can enhance your professional value, improve your competitiveness, and allow you to better serve your clients and community. And I'm going to talk about specific examples of how that works. This course is best suited for small and mid-sized firm principals, project managers, etc., although regular staff members would also find this content useful as well. Learning objectives here. Here you see the normal health, safety, welfare. I'm not going to read all of these, but what we're talking about here today is designed to fit into the health, safety, and welfare, though they only gave us credit for the learning unit and not HSW. The attendees of this program will learn the commonalities and contrasts between practicing architecture and the other practices I'm going to talk about. And of course, it's presented through my experience because I deliberately sought and obtained these additional professional licenses because I saw there was a significant value to my practice in obtaining them. And I'm going to talk about that specifically. And the content I'm going to go into will shed light on best practices to enable attendees to think about expanding their services offered and opening up their thinking and their the range of services to the best benefit of their client. Okay, this is me. You heard all about me from Sloan, so I'm skipping over it. All right, now why? Why would an architect consider training and licensing to become a community planner? Okay, there's a couple of different reasons. Okay, it expands your impact as a professional in the construction field. We focus primarily on individual buildings. Community planning takes a much larger view of things. I mean, obviously they focus on buildings, but they focus on the buildings and how they interact with everything around the buildings. This shapes neighborhoods, towns, and cities, and planners influence the built environment holistically, considering infrastructure, public spaces, and social equity. So as architects, we are interested in these things. We are focused on individual buildings that we're working on, but we're also focused on how our work fits into infrastructure, public spaces, and social equity. Integrating design expertise with policy, bridging the gap. Architects possess design skills and an understanding of spatial relationships, which are very valuable skills also in community planning. We contribute aesthetically to the environment, and planners are looking to create desirable visual environments and functional communities. So our skill set and problem-solving skills fit right into that very well. Influencing policy. We're constantly talking about the social aspects of what we do. We're talking about climate change. These are policy issues that our elected officials grapple with all of the time. So by becoming professional planners, architects gain credibility and influence in shaping some of these policies and regulations. We try to do this anyway through our public awareness committee and through our monitoring of what happens in the state government and see what bills are coming out. But by having architects that also have planners licenses, are also trained in planning, that allows us to expand our credibility and help influence the state. Oop. Sorry, the deck is jumping. Let me, yeah. Okay. Again, why would an architect consider training? Career diversification and growth, new opportunities. The background for architecture and community planning, interconnect. And if you can provide services on several levels, it gives you more diversity in your practice, and it could open the door to new opportunities. It also enhances your skills. The being able to have a planner's hat on sometimes, an architect's hat on other times, allows you to think slightly differently, which enhance the training that you get enhances your skill set overall, making you a better architect. These are highly valuable interdisciplinary skills, and they require a lot of what we are trained as architects in order to successfully do. Personal fulfillment and community engagement, making a difference. Both professions share common goals to make better places. Community planning offers a more direct way to engage with communities and address their needs. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance because I know I'm reading a lot of the slides. I'm going to do that from time to time because we're going to go into regulations. So normally I don't do that, but I will be doing that a little bit tonight. So let's get to the next slide. Okay. Sorry. Combination of architectural design sensibility and community planning expertise can be a powerful force to change the built environment. And let's face it, this is why we became architects in the first place. We want to influence our communities and our clients and our the people who use our buildings in a positive way. Okay, now I'm going to move to why would an architect consider training as a building inspector? Okay, it's different from a professional planner. The career change or diversification. Some architects may seek the career change or want to diversify their skills and experience. Becoming a licensed building inspector can be related as an alternate path within the construction industry. You can do both. There are colleagues of ours that do both. And I'll expand on that as I get through this a little further. Job stability and demand. Building inspectors are always needed. Remember, when you're a building inspector, you're working for government. You're working for a local government. You're working for the local city, or in some cases, a county. So it potentially is a good, stable career choice and help diversify, where your income is coming from. As the next point is, potential for added income. Ultimately, the decision to become a building inspector is a personal one, but these are some potential reasons why an architect might consider the path of getting licensed as a building inspector in New Jersey. Deepen your knowledge of building codes and regulations. Working as a building inspector provides you with a very intimate understanding of the building codes and regulations, which can greatly improve your architectural design work. I will tell you that before I get into the statutes, the reason why I became a licensed building inspector, and I have an HHS Class 1 building inspector's license. I also have a construction official's license and a building subcode official's license. I have never worked for a municipality, but I continue to hold those licenses, get the CEUs, and continue to hold those. The reason why is when I was an intern early in my career, we had a situation that developed. I had a municipality that was not a Class 1 municipality. Now, if you don't understand what that means, I'm just going to briefly explain it. There are Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 municipalities. Class 1 municipality, all of the subcode officials are HHS, which is the highest licensing. So that basically that enforcing agency, that municipal agency can take in and do plan review and issue permits locally on any building. A Class 2 municipality is one where not all of the subcode officials have Class 1 licenses. One of them might have a Class 2 license. It only takes one subcode official to have a Class 2 license to downgrade the entire municipality. And the Class 1, Class 2, and then there's a Class 3, which is essentially, a building inspector who does residential only or does a small commercial. These Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 are defined in the New Jersey Uniform Construction Code. If you Google New Jersey DCA Class 1, Class 2 structures, you'll get the definitions. Okay, the definitions are very wordy, and I'm not going to go into them now. But what happened in my case is we had a Class 1 structure that we had to submit to a municipality that wasn't a Class 1 municipality. And when that happens, Trenton takes over the enforcement authority of that municipality. So rather than dealing with the local inspectors who would come to the site and we could deal with, we could do plan review, they would give us comments and we would answer. We were dealing with the people at Trenton, the inspectors at Trenton that work for the DCA. It just took a lot longer. The reason why I got the license was I had, unfortunately, in my opinion, I had a somewhat uncooperative building subcode official down at the state level. Now, this goes back almost 40 years, okay, 35 years at least. And he kept giving me comment sheets that cited the code specifically, but he would not explain what it was that was the problem in the code. And I went back and forth with him month after month after month. And finally, I said to myself, I have to go and get trained as a building inspector because I have to understand better as to what they're trying to do here, because this is just taking forever. It would not have happened had the local agency been a Class 1 agency. So that came out of nowhere. And I, of course, knew none of this at the time, interning and as a project manager and trying to work through this Class 1 building, which was an office warehouse. Anyway, we did eventually get through and we did eventually get approved. The building got built and everything is fine. But that is why I decided that I needed this extra knowledge. I needed to know this because it was definitely valuable to my clients, to the firm at the time that I was working in, and it drove me because of the issues and the delays. So I'm going to move on to the next slide now. Okay. I'm going to talk about the architect becoming the planner first. All right. This is the state statute. It's New Jersey Administrative Code, Title 13, Law and Public Safety, Chapter 41, State Board of Professional Planners. Just like there's a State Board of Architects, there's a State Board of Professional Planners. It's very similar setup. If you read the statute regarding the practice of architecture in New Jersey, you can almost substitute planner in where it says architect. It's very similar. So there are requirements, just like there are requirements to become a licensed architect, there are requirements to become a licensed professional planner. So here's some of those licensing requirements. I'm going to read some of this because this is straight out of the statute. Okay. You have to be of good moral character. Now, we already know that none of us are of good moral character, but we're going to skip that anyway. You need to demonstrate that we're of good moral character. And you need to satisfy educational requirements. Now, there's several of these. This is the first one. In some cases, they want a graduate degree in professional planning from an accredited college or university in a curriculum offering instruction in such recognized planning subjects as principles of land use planning, history of city planning, planning project design, planning law and administration, with a minimum 2-year experience in the full-time practice of planning, or a graduate degree in the field other than professional planning from an accredited college or university with a minimum of 4 years experience in full-time practice of professional planning. So this is the education, some of the educational requirements. Now we go to the next part of the statute, and you see that double I, an undergraduate degree in planning from an accredited college or a university in a curriculum offering a major or option comprising a minimum of 21 credit hours in such recognized planning subjects, with a minimum of 3 years experience in a full-time practice of professional planning, or an undergraduate degree in a field other than professional planning from an accredited college or university with a minimum of 4 years experience in the full-time practice of professional planning. Now, I'm just going to go back over to the beginning of that. See on the second line there, it says, a curriculum offering a major or option comprising a minimum of 21 credit hours in such recognized planning subjects. Okay. Many architecture programs are also providing you with the curriculum that satisfies this requirement. Now, you have to prove that you have the 21 credit hours in those recognized planning subjects, and that's all part of the application process. But the degree in architecture, an undergraduate degree in architecture, satisfies, in my opinion, can satisfy a lot of these requirements. Now, it depends on where you went to school. It depends on what the program was like. Now, I went to Carnegie Mellon University for a while, and then I transferred to Pratt Institute in New York City. At Pratt Institute, professional planning was taught as part of the architecture curriculum. So I had a lot of these requirements. I was able to satisfy these requirements. Now, the other part of this you'll see is that they want you to have 4 years of experience in a full-time practice of professional planning. Now, a lot of, when I was interning back in the day, a lot of architects that had firms in New Jersey were also licensed professional planners. They had both licenses and they practiced both. And I was able to do some planning, and a lot of architecture and a lot of planning. And again, you have to have this documented through the application process, but that is how you can get experience. But even if you have your architecture degree and you satisfy the curriculum requirements to be able to take the planner's exam, and I'll get into that in a minute, it's worthwhile doing it even if you can't actually complete the licensing requirements, because the knowledge you gain in what professional planners do at these planning and zoning boards is extremely valuable as an architect. And I'll explain that. I have a video I'm going to show at the end. And then the triple I on this list here is graduation from a secondary school with at least 8 years of professional planning experience. So they actually allow you to graduate high school, go to work for a planning firm, and once you get 8 years, you satisfy those requirements. And then you see number 3 here is you must pass the professional planner's examination as required by the statute, and of course, pay. All right, now additional educational requirements here. They will ask you for transcripts for your undergraduate and or graduate degree level. Some architects have planners, master's degrees. Some architects have master's in architecture with a planner's undergrad degree. So I don't know how many of us are out there, but they're out there too. But even if you don't have that, it's still worthwhile. So candidates to take the exam need to provide the transcripts and such, which is typically you had to do that to get your architectural license as well. And if the applicant does not have the graduate degree in planning, but is claiming to have completed the minimum 21 credit hours in recognized planning subjects, the section of the application, it's referring to the application, which I'm not showing you here. But it shows you where to fill it in so that these requirements can be verified to see that you fulfill all of the educational requirements that are necessary in order to be able to get the license. And they ask for supplemental information. It's a similar process to what we did when we got our licenses as architects. Okay. It's important to understand that not all educational programs are accepted by the State Board of Professional Planners. Degree programs vary, and the applicant may have to provide supplemental information to satisfy those requirements. What are the examination requirements? Okay, now it says, except as provided below, an applicant for licensure as a planner shall obtain a passing grade on both the national and state parts of the professional planner's examination. An applicant who is licensed in New Jersey as an architect, I'll skip the others, is exempt from taking the national part of the examination and is only required to take the state part of the examination, which is the New Jersey Planning Law exam. Now, I took both exams. I passed both exams, but I really only needed to take the one exam. Okay, now I'm going to talk about architect becoming building inspector. How do you do this? Licensing of New Jersey code enforcement officials. Types of licenses and certifications. Now I'm going to go into the specifics of the licenses that are available that you can apply to get and what those educational requirements are and testing and such. Technical licenses. Okay. Technical licenses are the building inspector's license. You're subject to the requirements of the statute, and you may apply for and be licensed in following specialties. As a building inspector, building inspectors are authorized to carry out field inspections and plan review work pursuant to the regulations subject to the limitations herein. Number 1 is a building inspector with a specialty in high-rise, high-hazard structures, HHS. That's the highest level. Building inspectors, HHS, are authorized to review plans and carry out field inspections activities for structures in classes 1, 2, and 3. Classes 1, 2, and 3 are all buildings in New Jersey, from high-rise, high-hazard, any type of building in New Jersey. If you have the HHS building inspector's license, you can do that kind of work, inspect anything, and work for government in an inspector's capacity. Now, building inspectors, there's the ICS license, which is intermediate. Building inspectors with the specialty in industrial and commercial structures, which is the ICS license, are authorized to review plans for structures in classes 2 and 3 only, but they can carry out field inspection activities for classes 1, 2, and 3. So you see that the licenses have various levels that allow you to inspect and review based on what level your license is. Now, number 3, building inspector specialty in residential and small commercial, that's the RCS license, are authorized to review plans for structures of class 3 only and carry out field inspection activities for structures of classes 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So we have 3 levels of licenses. RCS is the lowest, next is the ICS, and then the highest is the HSS. I have I climbed that ladder. I have an HHS license in the state of New Jersey in building. Okay. Now, the other type of licenses that you can obtain are administrative licenses. There's two of those. There's the construction official or the building subcode official. Now, I only listed the building subcode official, but there is an electrical subcode official, there's a plumbing subcode official, there's an elevator subcode official, there's fire subcode official. So all of those are administrative licenses that are administered by the DCA. Construction official's license, there's only one construction official in each municipality, but the reason why you would seek administrative licenses is if you would want to go to work for a municipality, you need to have the administrative training that the state requires so that you know how the building department operates paperwork wise. Now, of course, they do everything on computers now, but understanding that process. There is one construction official generally, and there are 4 or 5 subcode officials, building, plumbing, fire, electric, elevator, depending on the municipality. In some cases, the inspectors may be cross-licensed and have multiple licenses. So the construction official may also be licensed as building subcode official. But you can, after you get your building inspector's licenses, you can apply to take exams and college courses, and I'll explain that in a minute, to get these administrative licenses so that you could be the head of a building department in a municipality if you wanted to be. All right, next, here we go. Administrative licenses. In order to get administrative license, you have to have the basic technical licenses, which was the 3 that I mentioned, RCS, ICS, HHS. Here you see there's electrical subcode officials, there's fire subcode officials, plumbing, elevator, and such. Eligibility for technical licenses. The technicals are the HHS, ICS, RCS. You need 3 years of experience consisting of one of the following or a combination thereof. Experience in construction design or supervision as a journeyman. Okay, essentially they're looking for people who have direct construction experience from building buildings. Experiences as a building or housing inspector, experience as a construction contractor in a field of construction currently regulated by the building subcode, or graduation from an accredited institution of higher education with a bachelor's degree in architecture engineering or in architectural engineering technology or in any other major of study significantly related to building construction. So your degree in architecture makes you eligible to take the exams to get these technical licenses. So you don't have to work on a construction site. Your degree automatically qualifies you for that. Also, number 4, and I skipped number 3 because it didn't have anything to do with us, possession of a current New Jersey registration license as an architect or engineer. So you have those. Most of you who are listening to this have a license to practice architecture. That satisfies the eligibility to obtain these technical licenses. Now, how do you do it? Candidate for licensure as a building inspector RCS, which is the lowest of the technical licenses, must also meet the following requirements: is the completion of an educational program for a building inspector RCS, provided that a person having a bachelor's degree in architecture engineering or in architectural engineering technology or in possession of a license or registration as an architect and engineer are exempt from the educational program requirements for building inspector RCS. So your architect license makes you exempt from the educational program, but you still have to do number 2, successful completion of an examination as required by the statute. Let's talk about that. All right. Exams for technical licenses. They're given by 2 organizations. National Certification Program for Construction Code Inspectors, which is NCP-CCI, or International Code Council. And everybody knows International Code Council because they are the ones that created the IBC and the IRC, which we use in our designing buildings all throughout the state of New Jersey. So you see this table here. This is talking about just the building inspector's licenses. There are other tables for the other subcodes. But here you see the levels are listed on the left: RCS, ICS, HHS. and you see the main heading is building. And if you look under the column on the right, that's the ICC exams. They tell you what number to call. And there you can apply to take these exams. And these exams are given locally. In fact, a lot of them I think are given online now. So you apply, they verify your application, and you have to pay the fee and you take the exams. Now, for the RCS license, let me make one other thing clear. You have to get the RCS license and pass those exams before you can take the ICS exams. And you have to have the ICS exams done before you can take the HHS exams. So they make you start at the bottom and you work up to it. The whole process for me, from the time I started to the time I finished all of these licenses, including construction official, it took about 2 years. Okay, and I was very determined, so I didn't waste any time. But you see under the ICC exams, you see it says residential building inspector, residential mechanical inspector. Those are the exams you would be taking. And they do offer study guides, so you can brush up on things. But a lot of what you know already as an architect is going to make you very well prepared for these exams. I had absolutely no problem passing these exams with just some basic brushing up on code requirements. That I had a lot of what I had already known from being an architect and practicing architect for a few years on my own after I did my internships. So those are the exams, and that gets you to the technical licenses. Okay. Now, administrative licenses. Candidates for administrative licenses, such as building subcode, electrical subcode, fire protection, etc., shall meet the following qualifications. One is the possessions of the qualifications established herein for a technical inspector's license. So you need to have the technical inspector's license in order to be eligible to become a subcode official. And you have to, number two, successful completion of an approved subcode official educational program as established by the statute prior to at the time of application. Now, what that means is the way New Jersey has this set up is every county has a community college or some established educational institution that offers these classes. The DCA offers them in every county. So I happen to be in Bergen County. So if you are looking for these classes after you obtain your technical licenses, you apply for the administrative licenses, you have to take a 1-semester college course at the community college in building subcode official. That's what they call the class. And you go to class once a week. I'm not sure if they're doing it online. They may be doing it online now. And you go to class once a week, and there are discussions about all of the administrative duties of the subcode official. And there are tests that you have to take and you have to pass. And you have to pass the class. And once you pass the class, you can let DCA know you passed. And they, if provided you have the technical licenses, they will grant you the subcode official's license. And I used to laugh because I used to go to these classes, and I was the only architect in the class. And the instructor in the class, which was filled with building inspectors who had their technical license, were trying to improve their ability to work in municipalities. The instructor would constantly say to them, "You can't let the architect beat you on this. You've got you guys got to get on the ball." And there was some studying, of the UCC, which is the Uniform Construction Code in New Jersey, to learn the administrative processes. But I always got a big kick out of that they were using me as a way to light a fire under the other inspectors, so that I wouldn't get the highest grade in the class. Number 2 on this list is number 2 is the class that you have to take. So going on to the next slide. All right. Candidate for licensure as a subcode official has to meet these qualifications. Also, number 3 is completion of the additional experience in subcode qualification. Now, you don't need that if you have your architect's license. You see letter I, double I, triple I. It talks about the license, the architect's license satisfies those requirements. Okay, next. Now we get to the administrative license for the construction official. Okay, in order to get a construction official's license, you have to have the subcode official's license. Naturally, you need to know what the subcodes are doing before you can be the construction official, the top dog in any building department. And you have to complete that educational program. The course that was taught for subcode, they have another class that you take at the community college, and it's for construction official. And so you take that class, another semester, you get the construction official's license, and now you have construction official, building subcode official, and hopefully your HHS license in building, and you can go to work for a municipality and do plan review, do inspections, sign off on inspections, and you can have a whole nother career path. But even if you choose not to work for a municipality, it is extremely valuable to your practice to fully understand all of the administrative processes that go on in a building department. They are very complex, and if you understand them, you can get through them a lot faster. So I do recommend to all my colleagues that you pursue this if you feel it will help improve your ability to practice. Okay, now in review, we talked about the professional planner's license requirements. We talked about New Jersey inspector's licenses. We talked about the New Jersey Code administrative licenses and the New Jersey Code officials licenses. This slide deck will be available to you. I understand tomorrow I have to print it as a PDF and send it off to New Jersey PSI, and they will be able to distribute it to you. Here's some useful links. And I say that the deck is available because these links are rather long, and I don't want you to have to write them down. But you go to these links, and this is where you find out the information packet for becoming a professional planner. And also the second link is the licensing info booklet to become a licensed inspector. But I've gone through all of those things. Now, before we get to the Q&A, I want to show a short video. It's a 12-minute video of the value of having the knowledge that a professional planner has in a setting such as a zoning board. So I'm going to unshare this screen. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to reshare another screen. Now, it worked before, just bear with me. And that's here. All right, now. Okay. Now I'm going to expand this. Okay, this is a video from a zoning board that I attended to assist the client. The client had a structure constructed on their property with no building permit and with no zoning permit. The zoning officer did an inspection. In fact, it was caught because the plumbing subcode official came to look at the air conditioning installation, saw the structure, and reported it back to the building department, who notified the zoning officer. So I'm going to start this video, and then I'm going to comment on it afterwards. But this is what happens in this situation and why it's valuable to have this knowledge of these other licenses.
Okay, next application, Moshe Yerushalmi, 101 Patricia Place, please come forward. Any interested parties to this application, please come forward.
Video's 12 minutes. It goes quick.
Again, any interested party to this application, please come forward.
That's me fidgeting in the lower right.
Okay, seeing none, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Moshe Yerushalmi, 101 Patricia Place, Clifton, New Jersey.
Little closer, I can barely hear you.
Oh, Moshe Yerushalmi, 101 Patricia Place, Clifton, New Jersey, 07012.
William J. Martin, architect, professional planner, address 25 Boulevard, Westwood, New Jersey, 07675.
And please stand. Mr. Wenzel will swear you in.
You swear affirm tell the truth, you swear affirm tell the truth for the zoning board tonight, so help you God.
Do.
Okay.
Seated. And we'll accept Mr. Martin, his qualifications. You've been in front of us many times. Architect and planner.
You have submitted information on the application, site plan, and denial letter for the denial letter
There
for
you go.
improvements that were made to the deck, and I just want to highlight that on the board that I have. What I circled right here is the area that we're here about. Okay, now, in addition to that, I have some photos.
So Martin, we're gonna, since you're gonna be marking that one, we're gonna call that we're gonna call that A1. Martin is, adding his,
Yeah,
notes to it.
Yeah, I circled the area in question and I put A1 and the date. All right, so I have these photos that I would like to distribute. And I'll give one to the, or reported to Mark, that I guess that would
Mark
be A2, right?
Two.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a moment and hand these out. Yeah, you'll notice my client says absolutely nothing. Which is, in this case, a good strategy.
For the record, Mr. Martin, you agree with me that your A2 is a series of 7 photos?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go through them now. Okay, the exhibit A2 is a series of photos. And first is the subject property from the rear, showing the improvement to the rear deck, which is the pergola structure that you see there. The first one, the second photo is of the same part of the house, but from a slightly different angle. Third photo is the same, again, in a slightly different angle. Fourth photo, again, same pergola structure in the back at a different angle. A little closer here, showing that there's no roof, that the pergola has slats above it. And then the next photo is a photo of the front of the existing house. Now, you notice you can't see the improvement in the rear. And the last photo is an aerial photo from a drone looking down, and it shows the deck prior to when the pergola was installed. So now that you have that. So the property is located at 101 Patricia Place. It is in about the middle of the block and occupies the lowest point in terms of the elevation in the neighborhood. There's a rear lot line retaining wall with the property to the rear and the property to the rear is about 4 foot higher than my client's property. There is ample landscaping between all of the properties. Property exists with the existing dwelling already set close to the property lines. My client was here for variance about a year ago, and maybe a year and a half, which was approved. And we're already close on the front, east side, west side, and the rear. The rear deck is pre-existing, was in a non-conforming location, and the pergola structure set on top of the existing non-conforming deck structure is, the zoning officer gave us a denial letter that identified the rear yard setback as the issue. And I would imagine that was because the pergola structure on the deck added to the height of the area around the deck, so therefore it pierced the required rear setback of 35 feet, are only 18.77 feet, and that was pre-existing, and that's to where the deck is now. There's no change to lot coverage, it remains the same. Variances for the existing non-conforming rear yard encroachment will be allowed to remain with no change. The use is permitted and will continue to be a permitted use. so there is no substantial detriment to the public good or to Clifton zone plan. The property contains the recently improved home and the existing rear deck. My client contacted and contracted a manufacturer for an open slat pergola. The rear deck has been improved with that pergola, which is why we need the variance. The pergola structure is supported by posts, see this in the photo, that are set inside of the railing of the deck. So the pergola does not extend any closer to the property lines. The deck, extent of the deck is the same. It just now has a pergola structure set into the railing. There is no additional encroachment into the rear yard. This pergola structure on the deck is not an enclosed room. It does not have a roof. It has these slats, and you can see that in the photos. It is not a conditioned space. There's no heat or air conditioning. I would characterize this type of thing as similar to a sunsetter awning. Familiar with sunsetter awning? They're attached to the structure, and they extend out, and then when you're done, you can fold them back up. Except that this is a little bit more of permanent nature. We can't retract this the way it is. So I would, Mr. Martin, how tall is it? I got that. All right, I'm just going to pause this for a second. I wanted to point something out. A lot of what you heard me say up till now is the typical stuff that an architect would present when presenting a project in front of a board. But I'm setting the stage now to move into the language that's used by planners to make the case for the variance so that the board can see that the law allows for this to exist. Even though it was built without permits and my client got caught, it's treated as if it was not there, and they are seeing this as an application for a structure. So I'm going to continue. You're going to hear me use very specific language about negative criteria, positive criteria, and no substantial detriment. This is straight out of the professional planning exam law and sets the requirements that allows the board to act to grant an approval. Now, the chairman had just asked me about the height. It's a very tall structure. I anticipated he would be concerned about this because when I went to look at the structure, I was concerned about the height of it. So now I'm going to restart the video.
It just looks like it's over the doors. It looks like it's at least 2.5, 3 feet over the doors.
From the grade to the top of the perimeter of the pergola is 11 foot 6 inches. And from the deck to the top, that structure is 10 foot 6 inches. So I'm making a characterization that it's similar to a sunsetter, because sunsetter moves, so it doesn't have any coverage associated with it. There's no roof on this pergola structure. So when it comes to the land use law, I would characterize this as a variance request for a C2 enhancement. And the situation could be viewed that the benefit outweighs any detriment by allowing any family who lived in this house to have some small shaded rear deck outside space. This does face west, south, and it provides the only bit of. That's the language that comes straight out of the law. That's what planners do. The C2 refers to a section in the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law that allows variances to be granted if the benefit of the improvement outweighs any detriment of the improvement. And that's why I'm citing C2. This is not a hardship. My client built this structure on top of his existing deck. There's no hardship here. So we have to make the argument under the C2 section of the statute, and that's the kind of language that planners learn to use. And if you learn to use that kind of language, you can use it even as an architect to help convince boards to grant applications, provided you meet the criteria. Shade you would have for the space. So I would respectfully suggest that the neighbor most affected in this case would be potentially to the rear of the property. There's a retaining wall, it's about 4 foot high, and you can see that in one of the photos also. And there's landscaping on top of that. So the neighbor is 4 foot higher, so their viewpoint of this is going to appear lower. They would be the most affected. Topographical condition of the retaining wall reduces the apparent height. I suggest that this fact in relationship to the properties could mitigate any negative effect and satisfy negative criteria. There's more planning language there. Negative criteria. Positive criteria was the C2 explanation, and now we have to address the negative aspects of this. The chairman already pointed out that he thought it was very tall. That's a negative aspect that has to be explained and mitigated, and I used the retaining wall in the rear to mitigate that negative criteria item. And you're going to hear me talk a little bit more about negative criteria in a moment. There is no substantial negative effect. The pergola will not hurt property values. It does not hurt the visible aesthetics. You can see it in the front. It will not affect any drainage, and it will not generate any traffic or any other negative effect. There's no substantial detriment to the public good. The project will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan, master plan, or the zoning ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I respectfully request that you give some consideration to my client's request.
Hey, Mr. Martin, I went to look at this property. And, thank God the people in the back have that 4-foot wall with the fence there and all, because this looks so high, this pergola. It looked really high. I mean, it's just not a basic pergola that you would think that's on a deck. These white frames, it looked overpowering. Let's put it that way.
Mr. Chairman, this is why I measured the height. I have that information. This was not a design of mine, per se. It's contracted without my knowledge, and I'm not saying that matters here. My client was led to believe that because it didn't have a roof on it, that it was not building permit or anything.
I mean, so like every application's on its own merit.
Right.
Thank God there's a wall back there, and then there's a fence, so it makes it even higher. So for the neighbors, it doesn't look as intrusive. But this, if it was just standing there and they didn't have a wall, this looks quite overpowering. You know, but thank God there is walls there, because I can tell you, it just didn't. When I first went there and looked, I was like, wow, this thing is big, tall. You know, I was like,
Why I measured it.
any questions from the board? None? Would you like to make a closing statement, Mr. Martin?
Well, like I said, I believe that circumstances in which this is set, as the chairman pointed out, great difference in retaining wall and the landscaping, that we resolved the negative criteria in that regard. And I would respectfully request that the board give consideration for my client's request. Thank you.
No other questions from the board? Pleasure of the board.
Through you, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Eisenman.
make a motion to approve this, and like Mr. Martin said, with the rear wall thing, it doesn't be intrusive to the neighbors and definitely adds value and a nice relaxing outdoor place for him and his family to enjoy. Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Eisenman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Braid. Roll call, Mr. Wenzel?
Commissioner Eisenman.
Yes.
Commissioner Braid.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramo.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor.
Yes.
Commissioner Fukas.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mulner.
There's no one here objecting, yes.
Chairman Zakino.
This is why every application is on its own merit, because if it was just a normal one in the back and it didn't have a thing, it would definitely be a no from me, but yes, because of that wall.
7-0 in the affirmative, the application is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's the video. I'm going to stop the sharing. And we're back to our main panel. All right, can everybody see that I stopped sharing?
Oh, you can.
Okay. All right, so questions and answers. I'm happy to answer any questions that come up. Now, I showed that video because I wanted to show you that having a knowledge of what a professional planner does, specifically the language that's used in these hearings, is extremely important. I was able to convince all 7 zoning board members to approve a structure that had already been built, which is very tight. My client was absolutely terrified that he was going to have to tear it down, and he had been told that. So, you know, these skills can enhance your practice tremendously. So, any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Bill, for the wonderful presentation. Before we take the question and answers, I would like to just mention a few things. You have mentored me before I took certain zoning and planning board meetings and testified. Initially, I was clueless, honestly, but yeah, you walked me through the steps, and like you mentioned, you do the introduction, you talk about the project, you describe it, you talk about the positives, you talk about the negatives, and then you come to the conclusion. And I really liked the format that you had taught me once, and I try to implement that in every variance that I do, and I really appreciate you walking me through that format.
You're good. I remember that. That was a tough variance, and you got it approved.
Yeah,
It was a win.
especially the FAR variances can
Yes.
be really, really hard to get through. So yeah, if you have a structured testimony and you stick to that, I think it really helps.
Yeah, you have to address the criteria in the planning law, and that's what you learn when you take the professional planner's exam, the New Jersey planning law exam. It's all about the criteria, positive criteria, special reasons, negative criteria, the different types of variances. There's C variances and D variances. There's subsections of those variances also. And all of that information has to be addressed in testimony in order for the board to approve it. And it's the applicant's professional's responsibility to address all of that criteria.
Is there anything in terms of selecting certain words when you testify as an architect and not a licensed planner? While you do your testimony, are there certain words you're not supposed to use as a licensed, if you're not licensed planner?
The language, it's not that strict. The rules of evidence in planning and zoning board hearings is not strict like it is in a court of law. So if now I have all the licenses, so I don't have to concern myself with this, but you know, an architect who has an understanding of professional planning can give testimony and address these items. Certain boards will say, well, do you have a license to practice planning or not? And you'll have to say, of course, no, I'm an architect, but you can say that I am trained in, I don't have the license to practice, but I am trained in these. And as part of my architectural testimony, I would like to address the criteria that's relevant to the variances. Some municipalities will accept that. Most will, some won't. Some will say, no, I'm sorry. Your client's going to have to hire a licensed planner and bring that planner in. It depends really on the magnitude of the application. I mean, I'm chairman of the zoning board in my municipality, and I regularly will allow architects to give testimony, provided that they're actually addressing the criteria properly. Sometimes they don't, and I have to stop them and I have to say, you know, you don't have the license as a planner. You're not addressing the criteria in the manner that it needs to be addressed. Your client's going to have to hire a planner. And there are architects out there that have planners licenses like me. And there are planners out there that give planning testimony for private clients. And there are also civil engineers that also have professional planners licenses and address criteria. So there's a lot of cross licensing going on, but it is definitely worthwhile to have that knowledge in order to provide testimony to assist your client in obtaining regulatory approvals. No question about that. Same thing with the building inspector's licenses. Having passed those exams and understanding the administrative processes and understanding the code at the level of an inspector, you become extremely valuable as an architect to that client. And I have had clients tell me they hired me because I had building inspector's licenses and a construction official's license. That was the reason that they had hired me. So these can very much enhance your practice.
I was researching about this and how to take the exam, and I was reading about that you can only take the exam twice a year, once in May and November. Is that true?
They only offer it twice a year. You have to remember, it's not like ICC has classes that they give. ICC is an organization that crosses state lines. The New Jersey planning law exam is administered by the state of New Jersey. They only offer twice a year.
Thank you. I'll take the first question. It's by Josh. Can you review and inspect your own projects? How does this help you in getting the projects through municipalities that don't have class 1?
Okay, you can't review and approve your own projects under any circumstances. You absolutely cannot do that. It helps to have the knowledge in order to prepare your documents with all of the information that the inspectors would be looking for. When I do construction documents, even for residential or commercial, I put a code information index on the title page. And that tells the inspector on which page he's going to find the information that he needs in order to confirm compliance with code. That speeds up plan review tremendously. And I know that he's looking for that because I have the same licenses he has. So I would be looking for that.
Thank you.
But you can't inspect your own projects. You can't sign off on your own projects. You can't issue your own building permits or anything like that. Now, there is a self-certification process that DCA is looking at for architects to certify that their plans meet code. That's a separate process that's being worked on right now. And we don't yet know all the criteria. DCA is developing that. But I already told DCA, I sent him an email, I said, I volunteer to be the first one because I know the code. So, you know, if they were looking for someone to be a guinea pig, I'd be happy to be the guinea pig, but I never heard back.
Let's see here. This is from Alina. Do you recommend NCP CCI exam or the ICC?
Honestly, before I started preparing for this presentation, I have never heard of that other organization. But those exams are accepted as fulfilling the criteria to get the building inspector's licenses. I would probably stick with the ICC exams. Those are the exams that follow the codes that we use here in New Jersey on a regular basis. It's probably better to do that. Back when I took the exams, they were administered by BOCA, Building Official and Code Administrators, which was the predecessor organization to the formation of the ICC. So that would be my recommendation, but I in no way would discourage you from looking at the other organizations' exams, provided they fulfill the educational requirements, which according to the state, they do.
The next question we have from Ricardo, he's asking about the time and the cost for taking these exams. I believe the planners, the inspectors, or the administrative exams, and the yearly maintenance cost.
Well, I mean, let's take planners first. I don't know what they charge for the exams. You can go on the state website and you can download the information package. It's a PDF. It has the application. It explains all of the costs and fees and all of that stuff. That's for the planner. Now, planner's license is like an architect license. It's renewed every 2 years. Currently, there are no CEU requirements for the license, although I suspect that may change. But it's a 2-year renewal. You pay the fee. I forget what I pay for. It's very similar to the architect's license, but in New Jersey, the architect's license does require the CEUs that we get from AIA and from other sources. I will say this about the CEUs, and of course, AIA is probably not going to be too happy about me saying this, but when you have a building inspector's license, when you hold an HHS or even an RCS license in the state of New Jersey, the state offers the continuing education for you to keep that license. They offer that CEUs for free. You don't pay anything. You just sign up. A lot of them are online. The credit hours that you get to maintain your building inspector's license also qualify for the AIA's continuing education requirements. Now you have to self-report, but they also qualify for that. So theoretically, and this is why AIA probably isn't going to like me saying this, theoretically, you could get all of your CEUs for free. And there are other ways to get them as well, but you can fulfill your CEU requirements for your building inspector's licenses at the same, and those same CEUs would qualify towards your architect's license. And I did that for decades. I never paid for anything for decades.
Thank you, Bill.
This is from Anonymous. Great job on the planning testimony, and I can certainly see how the knowledge can be invaluable. However, I do wonder if you can sometimes undermine the architecture license. Your PP testimony gave the board the information they needed to approve the variance, but as an architect, it would be hard to justify the construction of the pergola since it's already completed. So if you have given the client approval to represent him in front of the board, and then he asks for a letter to approve the structure to the building department, I would question if it has ever or would ever create a conflict of interest.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but let me put it this way. A lot of applications will have an architect and have a planner and a site engineer. Each of those professions has a different job to do. Under the law, when this happens, when someone builds a structure without a permit, they have to obtain the permits and have the structure inspected after the fact. But if you need a variance, which was the case in my client's situation, he could have been denied, and it wouldn't have mattered whether he got a building permit and got a building inspection, because he would have been ordered to remove the structure. So there's nothing to inspect at that point. So in advising my client, I told him, I said, the first step in dealing with this is the zoning officer's denial letter. We have to get the zoning straightened out first. After we get the zoning straightened out, we will apply to the building department to get the permit issued so that we can ask for the inspections so that the structure can remain. It's an outside structure. It's not covered up in any way, so we don't have to do any destructive inspection to satisfy the inspectors. So we got the zoning approved, and that was the video I showed you. And the next thing is, my client is, as soon as the resolution of approval is available from the board, in other words, their official approval, we're going to go to the building department and get the building permit. And that will get, there'll be a plan review. It's a simple plan review. It's only one simple structure. There's nothing else to it. They'll issue the building permit, and then my client will immediately call for an inspection. And the building department will probably come only once because the structure is already built. But normally, there's a rough inspection and then there's a final inspection. And we will do that as a separate process after. I don't see how the planning testimony could undermine the architecture, or the architecture to undermine the planning, because you even heard in that video, you heard the chairman say, each application must stand on its own merits. And the reason why he said that is because that's straight out of the law also. Because even though the structure is already up, the application has to be treated as though it's not. So theoretically, the board chairman could have said, you know what, I think this pergola is fine, but we want you to lower it 1 foot. And of course, it's a prefabricated structure that would have caused my client all kinds of issues. But they can do things like that. But they chose not to. I addressed all of the criteria that they would be concerned with succinctly, and they understood exactly why I was approaching it the way I was. And this is the value in that additional training, because as an architect, when you give your testimony in architecture, knowing what the board is focused on, you can tailor your testimony to set the stage for a zoning approval by addressing some of that criteria in your architecture testimony. So you're bolstering the planner's testimony, which comes usually after the architect. So all of these professionals work together, and it's extremely helpful to understand how all of these pieces fit together, how all these moving parts join in order to create a successful outcome for your client.
Bill, for the next question we have is about the state-to-state certifications. Would you elaborate a little bit about how a professional planner in New Jersey can we have a reciprocal license in other states? And how does the other certifications work in other states?
Okay, every state has its own process. New Jersey has a fairly strict process. New Jersey actually has a license for professional planners. There used to be only 2 states that had licenses for planners. The other state was Michigan. But other states have what they call certification. You have to be certified as a professional planner, which is not a license. But there is an organization called the American Institute of Certified Planners, AICP. It is roughly the equivalent of the AIA, but it's for planners. They have an exam. That's the national exam that I was talking about during my presentation. I also took that exam and passed that exam, and I did join AICP for a while. I was certified under their program, but they have separate CEUs that they require, and you can only get them from AICP, and the cost was a little prohibitive. And because I didn't need that certification, because I had the license in New Jersey, I opted to drop my AICP membership. But if you want to practice planning in other states, very often they will want you to show that you are a certified planner, which means you need to be a member of that organization to fulfill that requirement. Now, I have testified in other states, and I have not had this be an issue. It was not asked of me, but it could be asked of you, especially if there are attorneys and it's a contentious application. And if there's attorneys on the other side that are objecting, they might question your qualifications. But that's how most of the other states handle it. New Jersey has, in my opinion, by far the strictest process.
So like we have AIA and NCARB. NCARB takes care of all the paperwork and all. It's just the AICP who takes care of getting licensed in other states, right?
But NCARB is not a requirement in other states for architecture. Architecture is a licensed profession in almost every state. And if you have the license to practice in the state, they don't say to you, oh, you can't testify, you can't practice because you don't have NCARB.
Okay.
If you have the license. Now, you get the license through NCARB, but they would not say to you that you couldn't practice if you had a license in the state because you didn't have an NCARB. In fact, NCARB is not required, even to get a license in another state, provided you can fulfill all the requirements that state requires. But NCARB makes it certainly a lot easier to be licensed in multiple states. As an architect, I'm licensed in 5 states. And I have to pay all those fees.
Andrew asked, how difficult was the NJ state planning exam coming from a licensed architect?
I did not find it difficult at all, although I studied rather intensively. I studied the law itself. I didn't use the study guide. I literally read through the law. And the application of the law is where there are study guides and books, and if you're interested in that, I can point some of those out to you. But I did not find the exam particularly difficult. Now, that doesn't mean you won't, but you need to do your homework.
The next question Alina is asking is for the ICC. Is there a separate New Jersey state part that we have to take we have to review?
No, it's the ICC exam. It's administered by ICC, and when you pass it, ICC will report your passing grades to DCA. There's a channel of communication for that.
Okay.
There is no separate exam for New Jersey, although the ICC codes, the IBC and the IRC, do have New Jersey versions.
Mm-hmm.
The exams don't get that granular. They cover the code and how it's applied, but my recollection of taking the exams when they were administered by BOCA, and it was a similar process. New Jersey modified BOCA just like they modify ICC. The exams were not that granular. The questions were reasonable and intuitive, provided you had a knowledge of the building code and you did a little bit of brushing up. Remember, we're architects. We're expected to have knowledge of the code already, which is why our license exempts us from some of those lengthy requirements, lengthy time-wise. You have to work for a contractor or be a contractor for, in some case, a decade, and all has to be documented. And that's not so easy to do. But we're exempt from that because you have the license to practice architecture in New Jersey.
You mentioned some study guides and materials. Do you have any recommendations beyond reading through everything?
The study guides are, I believe, they're available through ICC. You know, you have Google now. You could probably find other study guides. I would be careful about spending too much money on study guides, but you should probably have at least one, and make sure that the study guide has some kind of a practice exam in it so that you can test yourself as you're looking through the study guide. And of course, the code is online. You can go to, you know, NJDCA codes, and the code comes right up on the screen. You can read the code directly as a form of studying.
The next question we have is, can you practice in the same town that you are a planner or an inspector? I think we touched on this before.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. You're barred from that. In fact, I had a situation where I designed a brand new home for the mayor of Harrison, New Jersey, which is a municipality in Hudson County. And because he was the mayor, he could not, because he had oversight over the building department, he could not have his own building department for the town review and inspect his house. So we had to go and file in Bayonne, and the Bayonne inspectors came to Harrison to do the roughs and the final, and of course the plan review. So there's very strict rules about what you can and cannot do. You can't inspect your own projects no matter what. If you're the architect, you can't inspect your own projects. So, and you know, it's just, there's all kinds of rules, and they are all written down, and they are all in the code in the UCC.
I think the same thing applies if you are on the zoning board or planning board.
That's right.
You have to be careful while taking such projects. Either you don't take the variance projects.
Right. Yeah, you have to be very careful not to create a conflict of interest or not be subject of a disciplinary action for your license for working in a conflict of interest that you should have known about. But you can work in all the other municipalities, you know, I mean.
Plenty of them.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is sort of a deviation from that, but is there a future date when we can expect clarity on self-certifications of plans for architects in New Jersey? Is it explained anywhere? I know we have it in the works as a webinar, but that's farther down the line.
I wish I had the answer to that question because I'm very curious about that myself. My understanding is that DCA is still working on formulating those regulations. They're working, you know, administratively within the Department of Community Affairs. I understand there's been discussions between the various boards, Board of Engineers, Board of Architects, Board of Planners, about exactly how they're going to do this. So we're still waiting to see what the mechanism is going to be that is going to allow for self-certification. There may be additional qualifications needed. Just having an architect's license alone may not be enough. So we're waiting to see, you know, what they have in mind.
Yeah, we do have a webinar, but we anticipate it would be the end of the year that we'll have more clarity on this.
Have you seen the proposed regulation? I have not seen anything yet.
No,
No.
nothing. It's
Yeah.
still in the works.
Yeah.
They're still talking about it. The next question we have from Josh. He's saying, I utilize the positive and the negative criteria when I present, but I'm not a planner. I think it is a good practice if you don't have the planner's license. Is there added value to take the test? Do you charge additional fee when you present as a result?
I charge my clients for professional planning services, and I charge my clients for architectural services. So I do think it's valuable to take the exam, even if the experience regulation prevents you from getting the actual license, because you will be able to address the regulatory board, whichever board you're in front of, using the correct language and explaining it in the correct way. And even if your client, even if you're not licensed and the board insists on getting a separate planner, that planner will echo what you're saying. So there'll be consistency in the presentation, which goes a long way to convincing board members. I remember these board members are lay people. They're residents of the town. They don't, most of them don't have any professional knowledge. So the consistency in the presentation is incredibly valuable to convincing them to see it your way and approve your project, positive and negative criteria.
I think there are some towns that don't allow you to testify for the FAR variance as an architect. And most of them do for residential projects. But there are some towns, they give you a hard time. They ask you, if you're not a planner, then you can't testify for the FARs.
Okay, yeah, they're allowed to do that. They're allowed to require certain qualifications for certain professionals giving testimony. The difference there with an FAR variance, and I know this because I'm a planner, is the FAR variance is a D-class variance. It's a much harder variance to get. The amount of testimony and the proofs that you have to put in are more strictly examined, rather than a C variance, which is a dimensional variance that is generally overcome by whether there's a hardship on the property or whether you have a better planning alternative. So the criteria and the testimony is lower for the C variance than it is for the D. So I can see a board saying, well, it's a D variance, we need very specific proofs. You're not qualified to provide those proofs. They may say that. But I do think, as referring back to the previous question, that it's worth it to take the planner's exam. Even if you are not able to physically obtain a license, having that pass, I mean, you can list it on your resume, take and pass the planner's exam. You just can't say that you're licensed as a professional planner, but you have that knowledge, and that knowledge is valuable even as an architect.
Our next question is, how can an experienced architect with almost 40 years of experience, primarily in architecture, satisfy the 2-year planning experience requirement to take the exam? And does this apply to building inspectors as well?
No, the building inspectors, you're exempt automatically. The professional experience requirements is something you have to go in the statute and you have to read it. See if you also look at the application, see if there is some way that you can fulfill that requirement. Even though you've been in practice for 40 years, you had an education, you need to go back and find out specifically what the courses were that you took, and line them up and explain them and see if the reviewers of the application will accept that as meeting the criteria in the law. Some of this is subjective. It's not all printing in black and white. Some of it needs to be reviewed and a decision needs to be made at the statutory level. And that's what they do when they review these applications. So, look over the application and see if you can meet the criteria.
I think we're almost done with all the questions. Was just a question about the New Jersey code change. Alina is saying, I believe the code is changing in September. So are we studying the 2023 or the 25 IRC version?
I think it's actually 2024 that's coming. And there are also going to be changes to the IECC, the Energy Conservation Codes. That's all being looked at right now. It has not been adopted yet, but yeah, if it's on track to be adopted, it'll come either in September or October. We're not always exactly certain when it gets adopted, but I'll know. I'm checking the website to make sure. As soon as it gets adopted, they will publish the date because there's a 6-month grace period overlap. And it's important to know what those dates are so that as you're preparing construction documents, you're designing it to the right code. And you have to get it filed before the 6-month grace period expires. And had that happen to me also, I became aware of a deadline and I had a file, and I literally filed it with the building department, had them date stamp it the day before the grace period expired.
Stephen asked, is the title of zoning official another set of requirements?
No, the zoning official technically is a political appointee. Zoning officials, there is training for zoning officials, but the governing body, the mayor and council, the elected officials in a municipality can choose just about anyone. I would expect that they would want to choose someone that had some training in zoning, but this has been a problem in the past. And I understand that there are state level certifications. They're not complex. They're not hard to obtain, but there is at least some minimal training for potential zoning officers, but I don't know exactly if it's required before they're hired. But that's a different animal. That's not controlled by DCA. Those jobs, zoning officer and such, are controlled locally. The building department in your town is regulated by the state. The licenses to the inspectors and the construction official are issued by the state and monitored by the state, so that the local elected officials can't interfere with the building department. But that's not true with the zoning officer and the zoning department. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that was good. I think.
But if you take the planner's exam and pass, I would imagine that would make you an excellent candidate to become a zoning officer in a municipality, because you will have had a lot more training, plus your license as an architect. I would imagine that would make you incredibly qualified to be an excellent zoning officer in any municipality, if that's what your goal is.
All right. Well, we've gotten through all of our questions here, so we can wrap up here. A recording of this webinar will be emailed out to everyone in the coming days. Thanks again, Bill, for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. This was fascinating, and I think I have a feeling this is gonna grow into a lot of new things from here.
You're very welcome.
Just a quick housekeeping. In addition to these bi-monthly webinars that we do, we also have a virtual forum, not a committee meeting, in the alternating months. So it's a great place to bring your questions and topics, and it's in a more of a forum setting, so we can discuss things, and it's not a webinar format. So those are held every other month at 4 p.m. on Wednesdays. You can get the calendar invite if you email Christina. And we also have next month, we're kind of switching up our schedule a little bit for something special. So next month, we're going to have another webinar at 7 p.m. next Wednesday at March 19th. And that's going to be a design talk with Will Tees from Tees Moore Architects. So hope everybody can join us next month. All right. Thanks, everybody.